The sounds of Dragon Ball have captivated viewers for over 30 years, from its powerful energy blasts, the childlike timbre of the Nimbus Cloud, and even the sound of the legendary Super Saiyan itself. So, how are these sounds made? Well, let's explain it this way. This is Hidenori Arai. He's a sound designer who's worked on various animated titles, such as Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, One Punch Man, Dr. Slump, and Gun Frontier, just to name a few. So, the reason you're here is probably the same reason I'm making this video. How does he do it? After searching through various forums, I found out he's a prominent user of synthesis, and that he also uses a variety of sound libraries ranging from cartoon sound effects all the way to Warner Brothers sounds. Though, this didn't really help me figure everything out. In all honesty, I don't know. But I could take an educated guess and try to figure these sounds out. So, let's have a look at the Nimbus.
Do you want to go for a ride?
So, just from listening to those two clips, I can already tell this is purely synthesis. And I can already hear the sound of noise. I can hear resonance. And vibrato. So, if you've tried to make the sound of a helicopter with a noise synth before, like this, then this will be easy. Otherwise you might be like, if so, don't worry, because I'll explain this in full. So we're going to try to recreate the sound of Nimbus from that clip just seen. Step 1. Open up a polyphonic synthesizer. For me, I'll be using Logic's ESP. To start with, we have no noise showing as we have no other bands selected. So let's begin by raising up the noise. And already that sounds way too sharp. So let's approach this another way. Let's raise the sustain. And then we're going to slow down the attack so it's less aggressive. And congratulations, you have made the sound of an old TV. Or wind, whatever you prefer. So let's make the sound less harsh. Firstly, lower the filter. This can be adjusted to be as soft or as sharp as you want it to be. As we're going for that retro 90s standard sound, such as the Nimbus, we're going to be lowering the filter quite a bit. Next, adjust the resonance. Upping the resonance may sound harsh here, but it'll all make sense in a minute. So next, we're going to attenuate the speed. In Logic's ESP, the wah sound seems to attenuate better with the resonance. And then by adjusting the actual speed set, we are getting closer and closer to that Nimbus sound, as we can hear. Speed it up to go faster, slow it down to go slower. And then just fine tune to your preference. Now, if we take away all that resonance, it'll begin to sound like that helicopter sound we had earlier. Now we just have to fine tune till we get that Nimbus sound. Okay, so after fine tuning that a little bit more, this is the sound we got. It's sounding pretty good, so let's compare this to the original footage. Okay, now let's put our sound and the footage together. Okay, so it's pretty close, but why is that? It all comes down to the equipment and the timbre it produces. Let's take for example this Akai S1000, a sampler that was very popular in the late 80s and early 90s. Good guess what Hidenori could use. And let's combine this with, let's say, a Sony L cassette system, another very popular system in the 80s and 90s. Both these tools combined together can simply change the timbre dramatically, from the preamps to the effects. All these factors shape into what makes it the soft qualities you get out of Dragon Ball sound. Also, it could be used in a very common synth or a very unusual synth. We have no idea. All these things change the tonality of the sound. Who knows? Okay, so we don't know which synthesizers to use, but there's no reason why we can't get pretty close. Now let's take a look into a much harder sound. A sound that took me a long time to figure out and understand, and that is the sound of a Super Saiyan. Now, I couldn't find any advice or any articles or any pieces on the Super Saiyan, so I had to guess this fully. So let's have a look. So let's dissect what's going on here. We have the bottom phasey layer. Then we have the whiny middle layer. And this is followed up by the confusing reverse swerve layer, which was by far the hardest to figure out. So let's have a look. So all that this synth is just simply a noise synthesis with a little bit of a notch within the filter. Adding that with a bit of chorus with a certain rate results in creating the base foundation of the Super Saiyan noise. Combining this with a reverb send and using a high and low pass to remove a little bit of unwanted frequencies help this blend into the mix just a little bit better. Let's have a listen. This chorusy kind of noise creates a great foundation for the Super Saiyan and is by far the easiest part of this whole guide. So let's have a look now at the middle noise. I'm using a combination of a sawtooth and a pulse wave, whilst also cutting off the frequency to make it feel a bit more vintage and basing the resonance quite low. Combine this with vibrato and a very good balance of speed, sustain and as fast attack, which is then combined with another chorus. Additionally, a high cut and a low cut has been made to make room for everything else. By taking out the low and high end, I can allow this middle hum to sit in the mix right. And now let's add effects. This allows us to add space and also make room for the other two noises. So let's get into the most complicated noise, and that's the high noise you hear on top of the Super Saiyan. Just like in a lot of Dragon Ball's works, there's a lot of noise synth being used here. I found out by pushing a high notch inside the filter, I was able to get this kind of high-pitched squeaky noise. By combining this with a chorus effect, and then additionally pushing everything to the LFO in a reverse motion, I was able to get this kind of swaying noise. However, the filter had to be added to such a long attack time in order for it not to sound too sharp. So already looking at this, I realised this is going to be way too aggressive for the sound we're looking for. As you can hear, it's kind of screeching and pulsing at you, so this is not what we wanted. So I decided to try an ensemble chorus to try and soften it and add width. This gets us one stage further. I then added a high pass in order to remove some low end. Now, before deciding I used a pitch shifter, this became incredibly hard to figure out. I tried frequency shifters, I tried multiband compression and everything, but it turns out just by bringing the pitch shifter down, I was able to eradicate that high-end hiss we heard. As you can hear, this really softens the sound and brings in a whole new tonality with the fades, which was finally touched up with a bit of notch EQ and low pass to further remove anything added by the pitch shifter. Altogether, added with a reverb bus, this is what we get. Now, if you wanted to make it sound a lot more authentic, you could add something like a bit crusher. As we can hear, this bit crusher is adding on a very dry dramatic effect, which could have been heard in, let's say, a 12-bit digital reverb unit from the 90s. So let's have a listen. Then let's compare this to the original sound. And now both sounds together. I mean, okay, it's not exact, but it's definitely close in the ballpark for Dragon Ball sound. Though, if you want to get the original Dragon Ball sound, try older synths, try older equipment, maybe some vintage simulations will work, but for this video I want to keep it relatively simple. But if you did enjoy this video, feel free to follow me on Twitter or subscribe, and there will be a part 2 coming soon, mostly evolved around weapon noises. Thank you for watching.